I personally am so excited for today's show. We have a powerhouse woman whom I've looked up to since I met her. Anna Churchill is the founder of Synergy Face and Body and has been leading the way in helping women be their most beautiful and youthful selves. As a leader, not only in Raleigh, but across the country, she's an in-demand speaker, trainer, and the business that she started 20 years ago is one of the most well-known brands in the med spa and plastic surgery industry. Anna, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us for the Best of Raleigh.
Thank you. This is so great. I really appreciate it.
Welcome to the Best of Raleigh with your host and real estate expert, Gretchen Coley, owner of the Coley Group. This show is all about the people and places that make the Raleigh area so special. Here's your host, Gretchen Coley.
So Anna, I'm so excited to have you here today. We met years and years ago through a women's networking group that we were both a member of, and I have looked up to you ever since, and I've really followed your journey. You've really done some incredible things in your life, and you've got such a stellar reputation in this market for being the go-to for all things anti-aging, women's health, women's beauty, all of that. And tell me a little bit about you and who you are and how you got here.
Well, I'm originally from Miami, and I moved here about 22 years ago, specifically to open Synergy. Back then, and even still today, as you know, Raleigh was always leading in the news for places to move, start a business, start a family, up and coming. So I really wanted to take my experience being in larger markets from my industry and move to an area that was a little still underdeveloped and kind of be more of a big fish in a small pond. As you know, the landscape has changed a lot in the last 20 years in Raleigh. So competition is coming around in all areas, which is great for us, right? It's great for living in this area because we get to have lots of things to choose from now.
Yeah, we do. And I love that you say, you wanted to come from a bigger market and really be a big fish in a small pond, because I think, being in Raleigh 20 years ago, the landscape was completely different than it is today. Now we have so much influence from larger metropolitan markets that I think that clientele is very attracted to Synergy for a lot of those reasons.
Absolutely. And I kind of like to think of Synergy as a pioneer of the med spa market in the Raleigh area, just because, to your point, more cosmopolitan businesses, people are moving here, and Synergy was one of those that came here, and I think sort of led the way for creating what we know the med spa plastic surgery industry to be today in this area.
I agree. And I think that was well said, because I do think you've really been instrumental in growing here in Raleigh and really being the brand that everybody kind of circulates around and percolates around. And you've been an influence in this market for a long time. You were one of the first women that I knew of that was really using social media to grow your brand in the med spa space. And you've had a huge impact there throughout your career. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I think that one of the things I love about being a leader in this industry is I get to wear lots of different hats. I get to really express my creative side, whether it be in the design process and selecting the way the treatment rooms look or products that we use or how the guest experience is for our patients. But the other thing that, we get to do is we get to be creative through social media. And when I first opened, it wasn't even necessarily common to have a website, let alone Facebook or Instagram. I mean, I don't even think I knew what MySpace was back then. So, we've really embraced social media. I remember when I first found out about Facebook and I didn't even have a personal page yet. I went on and tried to build my little business page, and, I didn't have anyone working for me that did anything in that area because there wasn't such a thing as digital marketing back then. So, we've always sort of tried to be early adapters. Obviously, not everything as an owner, as you know, sticks and is something that you can continue to put energy and attention to. But obviously, social media is one of those things that's exploded, and love it or hate it, it's here to stay. And we've tried to figure out a way how to embrace it and make it work for our patient base. And one of those things is really trying to make sure that we are inclusive in how we market ourselves, that we create an environment and a space, not only what you see in our social media, but also when you come environment and experience one of our locations that feels very receptive and open to all different types of personalities, people, ages, demographics. That's been something that's been really, really important to me, because I do think there's a stigma, particularly around plastic surgery and corrective procedures, that it's for elitists, that it's superficial, that it's not based on, mental health and well-being. And I'm really trying to counter that through the messaging we send out, particularly with social media.
Well, it's so funny. When you started talking, I wrote the word down, stigmatism, because I do think that is something that you have been instrumental in helping women all over fight. You have been an advocate for your industry in really crushing that stigmatism, to say, you know what, for me as a 49-year-old woman, I will tell you, it is not just about the way that I look on the outside.
Right.
It is about the way that I look at myself in the mirror and the way I feel about myself. And that is a mental health thing.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. It's not just for elitists. There's nobody on the planet who you can tell me who doesn't want to look their best.
Right.
They want to show up in the world looking rested and feeling good about themselves.
Right.
And you've been instrumental in shattering that. And that must feel good to you.
It does. I mean, I think I'm about to turn 50. And so.
Oh, we're right there.
Yay. And, so someone once called me the founding father of this industry, because I've been in it for over 30 years. And I thought, I don't know if I'm going to take that as a compliment or not, because it makes me feel very old, but okay, I'll take a compliment where I can. I think that the challenge is that we hopefully, and it's been proven scientifically, are living longer.
Yeah, we
right?
are.
So we're living longer, and we don't look like the 50-year-old generation of 2 decades ago. Like 50-year-olds when my grandmother was 50 looked like 75-year-olds look today. And so we are living longer, and we aren't necessarily in a great literal environment with all the environmental insults and attacks that we get from free radical damage and sun exposure and air pollutants and lifestyle and inflammatory diets that even we don't realize we're consuming. And so we on the outside look sometimes a little bit older than we actually feel, and we're not keeping up with our longevity. And so I don't plan on retiring anytime soon, and I'm competing against 20-year-olds in my industry. So I don't need to look like them, but I definitely want to look my best. And I don't want to feel criticized for wanting to do that. And I do think right now there's a lot of women that are anti-supporting women in whatever makes them feel good. And I have a problem with that, not just because of my industry, but because we need to build each other up. And as long as you're not doing anything harmful, or you don't have body dysmorphic disorder where one thing leads to another and another and another, I think you should stay in your lane and do what makes you happy.
I agree with that. I think that is the stereotypical female behavior that has been something that I know that you and I have this in common, that we have fought that our entire lives. Like, I do not believe that I have to be what I'm supposed to be to you. I believe that I'm here to be authentically me. And that stereotypical behavior that women sometimes have, where we cut each other's throats, or I don't cut anybody's throat, we get our throats cut, is just a thing of the past.
Right.
And it really needs to be. Like, it is time for that to be over.
And when I first got in my industry, it was highly competitive. When I first got in my industry, there was no competition. And then as it started to build up, primarily being a female-dominated industry on the med spa side, not so much on plastic surgery. That narrative is changing as we see more female surgeons in plastic surgery, which again is great, because I love me a female plastic surgeon, because they can relate to me as a woman. Anyway, so I digress. But I think that as we continue to my industry continued to evolve, we did see some competition amongst owners, and that's starting to mitigate now. That's starting to go away. People are realizing that we can collaborate and work together, and that we don't have to be fearful for what we've developed and earned the right to have ourselves.
I agree. I think everybody resonates with somebody different. And just because you and I get along really well doesn't mean that, I'm going to go next door and do something with somebody else, because it really comes down to the relationship and a sense of confidence. And I want to go into a little bit about Synergy, because, it's your 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm getting old. It's getting old. We're all getting old.
No, we're living our best life now.
Yeah.
But 20 years, in Raleigh, you've got to be celebrating that big time. I know you guys are getting ready to move locations. So your OG location.
Yes. So we actually have 6 or 7 locations right now. I lose count right the second because they're opening quickly. So we were in our original location for 20 years on Oberlin and Glenwood, sort of a staple in that neighborhood. I remember when we opened there, literally sitting in my car, looking at the shopping center and crying and saying, it's such an ugly shopping center. I don't want to be in there. But 20 years ago, there was no North Hills. Cameron Village isn't what it is today. So there wasn't a lot of options. And I remember thinking that area was so built up, there's never going to be another place to move to because inside the Beltline was so built up. And 20 years later, I mean, it's like a totally different area and totally different monster. And so fortunately, we're now able to move out of that location. We have options to move to that are convenient for our patients. And we felt like it was time. We sort of put a lot of lipstick on a pig in that location. And, now that we have 6 other locations that are new and shiny and bright and gorgeous and state of the art and modern, we just wanted to give the love to that location and our original patients that have supported us over the years and show them like, hey, we want you to also have a beautiful, modern, wonderful space to come to.
Because it is an experience, right? And you're moving right
Absolutely.
down the street from
I
me,
am.
right here in North Hills, which, I love being here. There's a couple reasons why. Number one, because of ease of getting on and off the interchange.
Yes.
There's something to be said for that, not having to drive into anywhere. But the building that you're going in is state of the art.
Yes.
It is gorgeous.
Beautiful.
And I can't wait to visit y'all over there.
Thank you. We can't wait to have you.
So speaking of that, I know that everybody out here is going to want to hear from you about what are the latest things that are happening in plastic surgery.
In plastic surgery, I would say across the landscape of this entire industry, and
Because they're kind of weaving together.
They
right?
are,
The
they
med
are.
spa and the plastic surgery, we're using those terms.
Sure. Plastic surgery, first of all, right, we hate the word plastic, but it comes from, an ancient term, which is to model or mold or shape. So unfortunately, it gets a bad rap, the word plastic, but it's really to create something beautiful and, enhance something that's already beautiful. So, but with that being said, the industry as a whole has really, taken a big turn lately, and we went from it being taboo to talk about having anything done to everyone talking about what they're having done to then everyone freaking out like too much is getting done, everyone looks overdone, and now we're returning back to that no makeup look.
Yes.
Meaning, I'm sorry, but if you've ever seen someone on the cover of a magazine and it's like, I'm not wearing any makeup, they probably had more makeup put on and it took longer to put on because they had to get it looking so natural so they could say they didn't have makeup on.
I love that. I never knew
So
that.
it's sort of like now with Botox or filler, women are doing more or just as much as before, but we're doing it in ways that are more subtle, more natural, that actually have longer lasting effects. We're actually coming out with injectables and things now that reverse the aging process because it turns on a switch in the DNA, which speaks to the RNA for cellular regeneration. So there's a lot of things that are happening in our industry. Again, even with plastic surgery, we're seeing the moving away from, full facelifts or even implants, let's say breast implants, to fat grafting, where
Right.
we do natural augmentation, or instead of a facelift, we're doing laser light for tightening. So, I think that, there's a big interchange now between med spa and plastic surgery, but we're seeing it move more and migrate into not that people aren't getting it, but we're able to deliver it in a way that's much more natural and much more subtle. Sometimes that's harder for my business because people think, oh, you haven't had anything done. Like, I don't know what you've had done or not done, but you look great. And if you told me you had nothing done, I think I'd want to kill myself because I'm like, how do you look
I
like
know.
that with having had nothing?
This takes a long time. It takes a lot of work.
Right. It does.
Yeah.
It's like going, I always
And it's
am
the
envious of
maintenance
watching you
things.
in your gym workout
Oh,
videos.
yeah.
And I'm like, like you're doing it. Like it's like that, right? You have
It's
to do it.
It's a process. And I think some of the best treatments that I've had, one of them was at Synergy. That was the, and I never say it right, but it was the laser, needling and the laser together.
Oh, the microneedling, the RF
Yeah.
microneedling, the Genius.
I love that.
Yeah.
I did 4 of those treatments, and that was a game changer
Yeah,
for my
because
skin.
it's-
because I want the no makeup look.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why
Yeah.
can't I have that at
You
49?
do. No, you do. You absolutely do.
Well, if I took this makeup off, we would have a different conversation, but that's okay because we can have that sidebar later when I come in.
Right.
But what are some of the things in the med spa space that people are really doing right now that you're seeing kind of emerge?
So definitely the energy that you talked about. So light and energy are two ways to affect change in the skin, both on the surface, so what you see cosmetically, but also what is happening physiologically underneath the skin. So again, anything that will stimulate your own response. So it's sort of like that anti-aging, but you're also getting that immediate wow factor because you're getting something on the surface.
I love that.
So I would say that RF microneedling is great. I'm really loving Softwave, which is another type of energy device. For a lot of your listeners, they're probably familiar with some of the original technology that came out, like Thermage or Althera, and we never embraced that just because we felt like the results were inconsistent. But obviously, over the years, technology has improved, and there's other things that are available now. And again, Softwave is one of those things that I think for women as they're aging or men as they're aging is a preventative treatment that really slows down that cellular aging process.
I'm all about slowing all that stuff down. I'm going down fighting. And
Exactly.
I know you are too.
Yeah.
So real quick, I want to do this kind of quick. So if there was a woman in her 20s that was looking to do something that was a maintenance that's going to help her in her 30s and 40s, what would be a one treatment that you would recommend?
Besides wearing sunblock every day? I would
That's a
say,
given.
Yeah, I mean, I think in your 20s, depending on how you were in your teens, you're pretty okay. You're more focused on the preventative. So that comes more from your home care and maybe some entry level aesthetic treatments, like maybe a biannual BBL treatment that would help with pigment or things of that nature from maybe when you were in the sun at the beach.
I had that at Synergy.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome.
I need to come back and get my arms.
I
and my
know. I
hands
need
and
to do
stuff
my
done.
arms again too.
I could go on all day about this. Okay, so for a woman in her 30s.
So 30s is when you're going to get into a little bit more, maybe a little more aggressive maintenance, I would say. So aggressive preventative maintenance. So look, I'm a real big fan of preventative Botox. I think that if you
So am I.
can do preventative Botox in your 30s and you're not making those deep frown lines, then when you're in your 40s and 50s, your muscles actually become a little atrophied and you don't need as much Botox as you age and it looks more natural. So I think things like that, obviously sometimes women in that age start to want to do a little bit to, fill their jawline or their cheekbone area. But I think in your 20s and 30s, it's really about good home care, good skin care, and really preventing that aging process that's you're gonna start to see in your 40s and 50s.
And you do everything at Synergy. You go from just the basic facial
Yes.
that you could do in your 20s
Yep.
to the microderm
Right.
and you start to level up from
Right.
there. And
All
do
the way to a
everything.
facelift if that's what you need in your 50s, 60s.
So it really is a one-stop shop. It's a great place. I've sent my daughter in a couple times. She's gotten a couple of facials to help with some of her acne. My son has been in as well.
Yes.
You guys have got some great laser treatments for acne for kids in their teens.
We do.
Yeah, that was so helpful to me. So, I want to talk about a couple things before we leave because I think there's so much to be said about who you are as a person. And the point of this show is always to introduce you to the people, places, and businesses that you need to do business with and should do business with. And you are huge in the arts, and we're going to talk about that next. I want to hear from you about building your business to be able to sell to venture capital because I
Okay.
think for all women in business, you should be building a business that is sellable.
Right.
And you've done it. Tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that experience.
Well, I think first introducing the arts into Synergy is something that I'm very proud of. And I feel like it did create an even stronger platform and foundation for me to be able to sort of semi-exit because we became a very appealing business entity for someone to acquire because of our deep roots in the community. They knew that we would be able to take that model and replicate it in other markets, and that's exactly what we're doing. So yes, 3-ish years ago, I partnered with private equity, and since then we've gone from the 2 locations with our plastic surgery center and a training center to now 6, almost 7 locations throughout North Carolina, Virginia, and where else are we? We're in Charlotte. I always think of Charlotte as another country. but we're in Charlotte. And so, and we're getting ready to open in other areas as well. And then the parent company that I'm partnered with has 6 other brands that are throughout the US. So I recently transitioned from CEO of Synergy, and now I am Vice President of Training and Development for all of the brands throughout the nation. And I still stay on as advisor for Synergy, and I'm on the board for the parent company. So, it's nice because I've seen my career kind of come full circle, and I get to do exactly what I love doing most now, which is community outreach, working with the arts to help support our brands. And in addition, I'm really focused on the training and development of the future generation of our industry.
I love that so much because there's a couple things, there's a lot of nuggets that you said in there, but I think for any woman business owner who's listening to this, that should be your goal.
Right.
To get to evolve a career that allows you to do exactly what you want to do and gives you all of these different experiences throughout your life. Because how boring would it be to do the same thing forever?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I love what you're doing with this, because you're keeping it interesting,
Yeah.
and you're keeping your life curious and keeping it open.
Yeah.
And I think that's really great.
If it's not fun, it's not worth doing.
Right.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for such an incredible conversation. You are such a rock star, and I'm so excited to be able to partner with Synergy and really, help our clients and help our listeners be able to get the services that they want, need, and desire from someone who is an industry professional, who is not only, in it every day, but teaching it, training it, advising
Thank you.
across the country. I think that's so important because the teaching aspect of it is what fills us up, right?
Yes.
When you are able to do something at a really high level and then able to multiply that skill by teaching it to others, there is something magical that happens in you as a woman. So tell us where we can find you.
You can usually find me on the road traveling, either for work or pleasure. That's my greatest joy right now, is being able to get out and see all different parts of the country and world. But as far as Synergy goes, you go to the website feelsynergy.com or our social media, and you're going to see lots of different locations. All of our providers are trained in-house. They go through a really long and hard training program. And so no matter what location you go to or what provider you see, I feel really confident you're still going to get that experience that you got when we were small and I was there every day. That's really important to me. So I hope that all of your listeners come and check us out and have a great experience at Synergy.
Well, I will tell you, you have nailed it with that, because even though you're not in there all the time, your face is,
Right.
because your branding is so good and you really build in that inclusion. You have people of all body types, all ethnicities, everything on your walls, which is so beautiful. And every time I have been in there, I have had the highest level of service.
Thank you.
No matter who I saw, no matter which location I went in, every experience I've had at Synergy and every experience my children have had has been fantastic. So obviously, Anna and I think that Raleigh is a pretty special place to live.
Absolutely.
And the goal of this broadcast and this show is to share with you the people, places, and businesses that you need to do business with if you're in Raleigh. That being said, we want to be your real estate partner in the Raleigh market. So if you're thinking about moving into this market and you're listening to this to learn, or you're thinking about making a move within this market, we want to be your go-to. All of our contact info for us and for Synergy is going to be down below. We would love for you to give us a follow and stay in the know on all things happening in Raleigh. This is going to be an incredible lineup of guests that are coming up, and we're so excited to share those with you. We drop a new episode every Friday on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Best of Raleigh. See you later.
Thank you.
That was awesome. You did great.